A black man in a tailored blazer walked into a room ready to dismiss him, until his plans silenced them all. Elijah Vance stood tall as he stepped into the Willow Creek Estates Community Hall. At 6'3" and dressed sharply in a navy blazer and leather shoes, he didn't expect applause. But he hadn't expected open disdain either. He was the only black man in a room of nearly 60 mostly white homeowners, many of whom turned cold eyes and whispered as he passed. He had lived in Willow Creek Estates, an upscale suburb with manicured lawns and invisible lines of exclusion, for just 6 months. Tonight's HOA meeting would be his first public step into the neighborhood's tense politics. But he wasn't there for politics. He came with a plan. Beatrice Albright, the sharp-tongued HOA president, called the meeting to order. Recent crimes are getting out of hand. 3 home invasions, 2 stolen vehicles, and packages vanishing weekly. We need real solutions. Sterling Blackwood, a heavy-set real estate developer, marched to the front. His red polo stretched tight over his stomach, voice booming with entitlement. "It's the outsiders," he said. "We need armed patrols, tighter gates, more cameras. Keep our streets clean." Applause erupted. Elijah, seated near the back, noticed the glances his way. Beatrice asked if anyone else had suggestions. A tense silence followed. Then Elijah stood. The sound of his chair scraping the floor made heads turn. He carried his leather briefcase to the podium and set up a small projector. The map of Willow Creek Estates lit up behind him, red dots showing every crime. "My name is Elijah Vance," he said. "I'm a security consultant. I prepared a full plan to reduce crime here. It's cost-effective, tested, and actionable." Before he could continue, Blackwood laughed loudly. "Really? You think you can walk in here and fix everything? You don't even belong here." Laughter followed from a few in the front rows. Beatrice didn't object. Elijah didn't blink. "I'm not here for your approval. I'm here because the problems are real." Blackwood leaned back smugly. You know nothing about this community." Elijah stepped forward. "Well, I know his patterns. Your crimes aren't random. They follow weak points in lighting, visibility, and routine. I've seen it before." His voice sliced through the tension. "Do you want safety or more shouting?" Gasps rippled through the room. Beatrice sat up straighter. Blackwood reddened, standing with clenched fists. "You don't talk to me like that." The room fell deathly still. Beatrice finally intervened. "Let him speak." Elijah resumed calmly. "Strategic motion lights, $5,000 total. A mobile alert system, low cost. Volunteer patrols, no weapons. High-res cameras at entry points, $25,000, covered by a one-time HOA fee. Vendors are vetted, contracts drafted." The atmosphere shifted. Skeptics leaned in. A woman asked about the alert system. Elijah answered with precision. Installation timelines, app functions, everything planned. A man in tweed nodded. "My sister's neighborhood did something like this. It worked." Blackwood, sensing he was losing ground, barked. "Sounds like a fantasy." Elijah met his glare. "Want your motorcycle stolen next? Or do you want to prevent it?" A hush fell over the hall. Then Vivian Holloway stood, voice sharp. "You're not even listed as a homeowner." Blackwood's smirk returned. "See? Just a renter." Elijah didn't flinch. "I closed on 14B, Oakwood Lane, 3 weeks ago. Ask Beatrice. HOA has the updated deed." Beatrice flipped through her notes, face pale. I'll confirm it." "You do that," Elijah replied. Then he turned back to the crowd. "You can keep pointing fingers, or you can act. Your safety depends on it." And with that, Elijah Vance closed his briefcase, not with defeat, but with power. But the room wasn't waiting for her confirmation. Holloway pressed her attack. "Even if you do own property here, what's your angle? You show up with a slick presentation, expecting us to hand over thousands of dollars. This reeks of a con." A low murmur of agreement spread through the room, several heads nodding. Blackwood's cronies exchanged knowing glances. Elijah didn't flinch. He reached into his briefcase, pulled out a slim, metallic USB drive, and placed it deliberately on the table in front of Beatrice. "Every document is on there," he stated, his voice a control burn. "Contracts, vendor quotes, my professional certifications, a copy of my purchase agreement. Copy it Share it. Read it. I'm not here for your money. I'm here to prevent your homes from being targeted. The room hesitated, the momentum teetering. Then, a soft clap broke the silence. It came from the back. A teenage boy, maybe 17, wearing a school sports jacket, stood up, his phone still aimed at the projection screen. "Yo, this dude's legit," he announced, his voice cutting through the tension. I looked him up. Elijah Vance, former security consultant for several high-end communities. Got commendations. Check it. He held up his phone, displaying a professional profile with glowing testimonials. A collective gasp swept through the room. Beatrice's face drained of color. Blackwood's smirk vanished, his associates exchanging uneasy glances. The tweed-jacketed man stood up. "I'm in. Lights, app, cameras. Let's vote." The short-haired woman seconded the motion. Hands shot up across the room. A clear majority. Beatrice wrapped her pen weakly. "The motion passes. Mr. Vance, you're in charge of implementation." Elijah nodded, already zipping his briefcase, his point driven home with quiet force. But the residual tension from Blackwood and his allies lingered. One of them, a wiry man with a goatee, stood up, his voice laced with suspicion. "This is moving too fast. How do we know he's not just some smooth talker? I say we table this, get a committee to review everything first." A murmur of agreement rippled through the room, the initial enthusiasm waning slightly. Blackwood seized the opportunity, rising to his feet once more, his voice regaining its earlier booming quality. "Exactly. We're not handing over our neighborhood to some newcomer. He has no real stake here. Probably just looking to line his own pockets and disappear." The room teetered again, the hard-won momentum threatening to crumble under the weight of renewed doubt. Elijah's eyes narrowed, but his voice remained steady, cutting through the rising uncertainty. "No stake." He stepped closer to the edge of the makeshift podium, his presence filling the room. "I have an 8-year-old daughter who plays in the park down the street. Do you think I want her growing up in a community where she's afraid to ride her bike?" He pulled a small, worn photograph from his wallet, holding it up for the room to see. A smiling little girl with pigtails clutching a well-loved teddy bear. The room softened. The murmurs died down. Even Blackwood's expression softened almost imperceptibly. Elijah tucked the photo back into his wallet, his voice dropping to a fierce whisper. "You want a committee? Fine. But every day you delay, another home becomes a target. I'm not waiting." The room held its breath, the weight of his words sinking in. Then, unexpectedly, a woman in a denim jacket stood up, her voice trembling but resolute. "I'm tired of being scared," she declared, clutching her purse tightly. "My garage was broken into last month. They took my tools, my kids' scooters. If this man has a plan that will make us feel safe again, I'm with him." She pointed at Elijah, her hand surprisingly steady. Another voice chimed in, an older man with a cane. "My car was stolen just last month. I say we try it. What do we got to lose?" The tide had turned decisively. Hands rose again, the vote reaffirmed with even greater conviction. Blackwood's allies sat down, deflated. Blackwood himself remained silent, his face a mask of barely contained fury. Elijah seized the moment, his voice rising to a quiet thunder. "You laughed at me, mocked me, called me an outsider. That was your mistake. I'm not here to beg for your approval. I'm here to build something that works. Every single person in this room has a stake in this. Everyone has a voice. Dismiss that again, and you're the ones who truly lose." He locked eyes with Blackwood, who finally shrank back in his chair, his face burning with a shame he couldn't quite conceal. The sweltering Tuesday evening had taken an unexpected, decisive turn. 3 weeks passed. Most of the community had embraced Elijah's plan. Surveillance cameras now watched over dimly lit corners. Motion sensor lights glowed on every block. The neighborhood app buzzed quietly with updates. Suspicious activity flagged, packages retrieved, a missing dog found within hours. Skeptics had grown silent. Even Blackwood, though he refused to speak directly to Elijah, had noticeably increased patrols around his own properties. But tonight, as Elijah walked down Oakwood Lane, he wasn't thinking about vindication. He was thinking about his daughter. She ran ahead of him now, pigtails bouncing, her laughter echoing in the warm evening air. Other children had joined her, riding scooters, playing tag near the newly installed light posts. Parents stood outside, chatting, not in fear but familiarity. A woman in a denim jacket waved from across the street. "Thank you, Elijah," she called. "My boys sleep better now." "So do I." He smiled, giving her a small nod. "We all deserve to." Behind him, footsteps approached. He turned to see Beatrice Albright, still severe in posture, but with something softer in her eyes. "I reviewed your implementation logs," she said. "Everything is running ahead of schedule." "That's the goal," Elijah replied evenly. Beatrice hesitated. "Then, I was wrong about you." Her voice wasn't loud, but it carried weight. "We needed someone to shake us out of our complacency. Someone who didn't just talk, but acted." Elijah didn't gloat. He simply said, "Change is never comfortable. But safety isn't about comfort. It's about commitment." Beatrice offered her hand. He took it as the sun dipped low, casting long shadows across the quiet streets of Willow Creek Estates. Elijah watched his daughter laugh freely under the security lights. No one looked twice at them now. No whispers. No smirks. Just neighbors. The outsider had become the architect of something greater, a safer, stronger community. And for the first time since he moved in, Elijah Vance didn't feel like he was standing alone, but he felt home.